Hi guys, and welcome back to Thumpstar. Today we have a very basic maintenance video. We're going to go over a few things on this bike. This is a TSX 125, a 2019 model. However, it's very similar to the current models, and it's also very similar to some of the previous models, so a good model to use for this example. We're going to go over things like how to change oil. This should be done after the first hour of riding, along with a few other minor bits of maintenance. So let's get into that now. So the first thing we're going to do is drop the oil. These bikes come with a running in oil that's designed just to be used for that first hour to help the engine free up. After that first hour, you want to drop that out and put some normal semi-synthetic 10W40 is what we recommend, and that's what we're going to be using today. A 17mm socket is what you're going to need to crack the sump plug. That is also very easy to locate. The sump plug on these bikes, you can locate basically by finding the hole in the bottom of the bash blade, and straight on top of that is your sump plug. You can identify that by the way it is going straight up and down in the motor. There is another plug further back which you might not be able to see in this video, but that plug is coming out the bottom of the motor on a 45-degree angle. That is your cam chain tensioner. You definitely do not want to undo that. So just reiterating, where the hole is in the bash plate there, that is your 17mm sump plug, and we're going to just undo that. So we're going to crack that plug like so, and then we are free to take that out. I like to undo the dipstick because that just helps the oil flow out of the engine a little bit more freely. And we can now drop that oil into our catch tray just like so. It's also a good idea to warm the bike up before you do this, just to thin that oil out, and you're going to get a lot more of that oil out of the motor. So there we have it, it's that simple. We're now going to allow the oil to drain out the motor, and as we do that, we're going to go and check over a few other items. Now that we are having our oil drain out the bike, we're going to check our air filter, and if that requires cleaning, we're going to go through that process. So the two 10mm bolts on the side of the bike here need to be undone. That panel comes off nice and easily and exposes our air filter. Now, if your air filter has been dirtied through usage, what you're going to want to do is take it out, soak it in some petrol to clean it out. Release that tab, and then you'll find it just comes with a bit of a wiggle straight out. So what you can do is you can take the cage out, you can soak that in some petrol, wring it out, allow it to air dry, don't force dry it, and then reapply with air filter lubrication and place it back into the filter housing. While we are waiting for our air filter to dry off, we're going to have a look at chain tension. Chain tension is a very important part of maintenance because it's going to help your bike to shift gears properly, and also it's going to make your sprockets and your chain last a lot longer. The way you want to measure your chain tension is the point between the front sprocket and the rear sprocket, roughly halfway. You want to find that point, and you basically want to be able to get a couple of fingers in there with a bit of wiggle room. So this one here, I think we're calling a bit loose. Probably just needs a little bit more tightening up, so we're going to get into that right now. I'm going to start here at the axle, and we're going to crack the axle nut using our 30mm socket. Get that nice and loose. Then we have got here the lock nut and the adjustment nut on the chain tensioner. We've got that on both sides, so you want to release your lock nut on both sides, and then you're going to take your 10mm spanner and you want to do the right motion. So basically we want to make this bolt come back further, so we're going to go up a quarter of a turn like so, And then we're going to do the same on the other side, but on the other side, remembering we need to now go down because that is the same thread. So quarter turn either side. After I crack the lock nut. Quarter turn on that, and as I do that I can see the chain pull a little bit tighter. Might just go a pinch more, as we said, just a half of the turn, a half of a quarter of a turn, half of a quarter of a turn. Now you do have lines and adjustments on the other side of the chain which will help you get the measurements right. On the inside there of the swing arm we can see the numbers, and so you just want to make sure that corresponds the same on either side. Once you've done that, a little bit of a trick our head mechanic has taught us is to place the spanner in there and just pull back on it. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull up any slack in between the adjuster and the actual swing arm there. So now we can tighten up our lock nut on both sides, like so. We can tighten up our axle. And we can just roll the chain forward like that to get our spanner out. And we have got a nicely tensioned chain. And at the end of that, we're just going to pop the split pin back in the hole, like so. And then we're just going to bend the end of that split pin around once we get it through, just to stop that coming out. Stop the nut undoing. So there's your chain tension done. Once that's done now, our air filter will be dried and ready to be placed back in, nicely lubricated, freshly cleaned, ready for another ride. And putting that in is just the reverse of when we took it out, so we're just going to pop it back in and pop that side panel back on top. So easiest to start with the bottom grommet, push it in, and then click that top grommet back down on top, and you are done, ready to put your side panel back on. Be sure to feed the side panel in with the 2 tabs first, and then you want to try and work that under your seat like so, and should be right to bolt him back in. So the next thing we are going to look at is spoke tension and tyre pressure. So we like to run about 15 psi front and rear. Very simple. You simply put your fitting on like so, and there we have about 15 psi. As for adjusting the spokes, you want to take a small open ender and basically wiggle every spoke. If you feel any kind of movement whatsoever, you're going to tighten up what we call the nipple of the spoke, and to tighten that up, you're going to go in an anti-clockwise direction. So that would be this way here. That is anti-clockwise. That is going to tension up your spoke. If you come across any of them wiggling, that's what you want to do. These ones are all totally fine. The biggest cause of punctures and getting a flat tire is generally loose spokes. So if you do this maintenance, you are a lot far less likely to get yourself a puncture or a flat tire. Another area that you want to look at for maintenance is your cable slack. If we take a look here at our throttle cable, you want a couple of mil of free play. This one's got just a pinch too much free play. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this main adjuster here and we're going to crack this lock nut, and we're going to come out a little bit further and just minimize that free play. You've also got a secondary adjustment there, so we can crack that lock nut and we can just extend that a bit as well, just to get the right amount. Like we say, just a couple of mil stops you applying the throttle when you go lock to lock. That's why we need to have that little bit of free play. And it's the same thing over here on your clutch lever. You just want to have just that little bit of play. So we're just going to back that up and screw that in a bit, and you'll see here we can just wiggle the lever and just get a nail's worth in there. Just a tiny bit of free play is what you want on those cables. Okay, so by this time you're going to find all your oil has been drained out of the bike. You want to inspect your washer on your drain plug. If it looks worn, replace it, but if it looks like it's still in good condition, you can actually still reuse that. The torque specs for that is 24 Newton meters or 18 foot-pound. Very important to apply the appropriate torque specs on a sump bolt, especially as the castings are generally softer than the bolt, so you definitely don't want to go stripping that out. That goes for any motorcycle, so we're just going to get it hand tight like so. Then we're going to put our torque wrench on with the correct settings, and we're just going to wait for that click. And there it is. That is all we need to do, ladies and gents. After that, we're now going to fill up again with fresh oil. We recommend using genuine Thumpstar 10W40 semi-synthetic. So we'll find a lot of our models are going to take 700 to 800 mil of oil. So we're going to basically put all of this except for a little bit at the bottom of the bottle. All right, so we're going to apply 700 to 800 mils to the filler there. Make sure you use your funnel or you're going to get a big mess of oil. Once we've done that, we're going to double check it with the dipstick just to make sure we are reading correctly. So we've put roughly 700 to 800 mils in. We're just going to screw the dipstick in on this model to get the accurate reading. So we'll screw that all the way in, then we're going to take it back out again and give ourselves this white rag. Makes it a bit easier to read. As we put it down like that, we can see that we are covering the correct area. That completes your oil change. Your bike should now be in tip-top condition. Like we say, after your first hour, these are the kind of things that you want to do, especially the oil change. The air filter should be done ongoing, and things like your spoke tension and your chain tension should be done before and after each ride. Bolt check is probably one of the other things that you want to do. Just go over all your nuts and bolts. It's a really good habit to get into. Take your 10 mil, go over every single bolt that you can see, and just make sure they are tightened up nicely. Little bits of maintenance like this are going to go a long way to giving you a very happy life on a Thumpstar. Thanks for watching, guys.